Welcome to our zone, welcome to our project. It's a big pleasure to have you here with us today.
Thank you for welcoming me here.
Yeah, tell us a bit more about what are you doing here, specifically in Kyiv. What are your activities right now and how you're involved to the war situation and how you decided to come here and to see everything by your personal eyes?
Well, let me just introduce myself. My name is Rodійs. I am a 23-year-old from Riga, Latvia. And I've been doing a lot of social things all my life. I used to work in politics. Now I actually work in the IT sector, but I still follow global affairs quite a lot. And
quite a lot for 23 years.
Quite a lot for 23 years. I know. And I even finished politics. So by 23, I'm already kind of done with it for a moment.
Retired from politics.
Already, yeah. But no, I remember quite early on, I've always had like a thing for Ukraine, as in Ukraine has always been a country that is quite close to Latvia due to historical reasons which are not always that great, but at the same time it has brought us closer together. And ever since 2014, actually it's Latvians and the other Baltic countries have been great supporters of Ukraine, with me as well. And when the full-scale war started in February 2022, I knew that I have to at least be a part of the solution. And so I started doing protests, volunteered, and and this volunteering has also brought me to Ukraine several times during the war.
You mentioned 2014, the Revolution of Dignity, so you were like around 12 years old and you
14.
followed, okay, but you already followed that news and activities that happened in Ukraine?
I remember actually following the first, the way the little green men arrived in Crimea and as well the Maidan protests. I was an avid news reader at the time. And I remember like strongly in my memory, I was looking at my iPad and reading our Latvian national news site and I saw like videos of helicopters crossing into Crimea, and I still remember running up to my mother and saying, look what the Russians are doing. This is not okay, this is not fine. And as well as following all the events that happened in the Donbass region as well. It has been tough years for Ukraine as well, but I know I have followed everything from that time.
You touched the topic of migration, and this topic is super relevant for Ukrainians right now. We have a work migration, labor migration, refugees. But another important topic what I wanted to touch from the youth perspective is brain drain. Because what we face right now, that young talented people, they go into European countries, and European countries are not helping us to get them back, but they're trying to leave them in EU countries, and that's fine, I mean, from their perspective. But from we need that people back, and we need to make sure that they're still connected, and after the victory we can still be in touch, that we can use their minds and we can use their experience that they're currently getting in European institutions, countries, universities, that we can use them, for example, in Ukraine, working in the ministries, starting their own businesses, and etc. So Latvia also faced that challenge after you entered the European Union, because the borders are open and people want to study probably in Germany, getting a high salary, and etc. Are you somehow aware about the situation? And maybe you have some cases or stories how you prevented it and what you did to make sure that young people are still involved inside the country?
Well, it was it's a story with many factors, and it was not such a brain drain as it was just a global economic recession in 2007, 2008, 2009. That's when many people left. But what is the best pull factor for people to return? It's a stable economic situation, well-developed institutions, great civil
liberties. Yeah, but it's from theoretical perspective.
From a theoretical perspective, yeah, and that's actually helped. There are many Latvians who are returning back to Latvia now, who used to emigrate to the United Kingdom or Germany and Ireland or wherever, and they come back, visit, and see, wait, there's good salaries here. Everything's still a bit cheaper. I feel like I'm back in my own country. And they decide to come back. And that is a big thing that is happening right now. A lot of people are returning. And so applying this to the context of Ukraine and your brain drain that is happening there, I would say that what will be the biggest pull factor back is a safe Ukraine, which has been victorious in its conflict. After victory, I think there's going to be many, many people who will want to return because, of course, the Ukrainian government is going to have to work a lot on that to push them, pull them back into Ukraine. But yes, I think the best thing to do is to win. And after,
of course,
after
I
winning,
mean, it's the first stage, number one.
Of
but
course.
What will happen after? Because, you know, now all people are so mobilized and people are so involved in what is happening and people are ready to donate, ready to participate, ready to join the armed forces and etc., etc. But after the victory, it will be like definitely a time when people will be depressed because it's like economical crisis, people are still getting out and in, we have so many wounded people, so many internal problems, politics, elections, and etc. So this time will be super crucial for Ukrainian history. Even, I don't want to say hard or not, but it's definitely will be approximately the same as during the war because we need to think about the future. Should we enter the EU or not? I mean, definitely the population wants to do that, and we are on our path, and we signed all the we declared that in the parliament, we declared that with European Commission, we're working on the reforms and etc. But still, we don't understand when we will get that European perspective or say that European window, and people are getting more tired because the situation is so unstable from time to time, and now we will have a winter, and this is quite difficult time for us because we will have problems with electricity, blackouts, and etc. So for us, all that moral things are super important, and mental health, let's say, we are trying to work on that as well. So speaking about the European integration, from your perspective, is it possible for Ukraine to enter the EU this year or next year? Is it like a perspective for 5 years or 10 years?
I think it's more of a long-term than a short-term perspective. Because, of course, Ukraine belongs in the European Union. It has shown it, and it has spilled its blood on the battlefield to show it, that Ukraine belongs in the European family. But there are so many reforms that need to be undertaken, and not just on paper. They have to be enacted in reality for Ukraine to really integrate itself into the European Union systems. Then of course Ukraine will be welcomed with open arms. But I think it's going to take a lot of work, and it's not just going to be on paper. It's going to be really tackling many problems.
So that's why we need young people here, why we're speaking about brain drain, because young people are more flexible and they're ready to work on that topics, because like maybe you don't know about that, like recently the European Commission, they presented a big recovery plan for Ukraine called Ukrainian Facility, and they presented a plan how to support Ukraine for 50 billion euros for several years. To repair infrastructure, to do reforms, and etc. And do you know how many times they mentioned young people there? Only once, somewhere in some narrative.
Somewhere at the bottom of the page.
Yes,
probably, yeah.
yes, and that's the problem, you know, because we need young people, we need talented people who will work here and who will get that experience. For example, studying in Oxford or Cambridge, or going to study in European Parliament for internship, but after that getting back and implement all the reforms to make sure that they're not only on the paper, but to do them physically from the mental perspective. And so that's why we're trying to make more projects, or somehow involve with more partners from different countries to learn the experience and understand what tools we should use here to be more effective. Still, we are trying to make sure that, you know, Putin can destroy some infrastructure, but he cannot destroy our positive feeling and our attitude to things, because if we will all live under that pressure and we will follow it, that means that he's winning, but we cannot allow him to do that.
But talking about youth in that context as well, I was walking around central Kyiv, and I saw, you know, the faces of the soldiers that were fighting in this terrible war. And seeing, the worst thing that to see is the dates of birth. Seeing guys that are younger than you going into battle and making the ultimate sacrifice, honestly, to defend not only Ukraine, they're defending Europe. And seeing them kind of, you know, brought a tear to my eye, honestly. it felt terrible, but seeing that all of these young guys could have been IT specialists, construction workers, anything they could have been, and right now seeing how a lot of the youth is having to sacrifice itself for the next generations, I think that's also going to be a very important point in Ukraine, as in not only returning people who have emigrated, but as well making a sustainable population and talking about demographics and such, at least for the long-term perspective as well.
Do you know some Ukrainian refugees in Latvia? Are they active, I mean, in the civil society or maybe helping through the volunteer organizations?
There are a lot of, actually, at least in the beginning period, a lot of them did a lot of work organizing back humanitarian aid, sending it back to Ukraine as well. But actually, at this point, I think a lot of them have returned to Ukraine. Right now, I think the amount of Ukrainian refugees in Latvia has been dropping. But young people as well, I don't see that many actually anymore. There have been some in our education institutions. Well, my mother is a teacher, and she actually also has a Ukrainian girl now in her class. A lot of many schools had to adopt as well, and education institutions like universities as well. But actually, I don't think there are that many anymore, and I think a lot of them have returned. But I think there's still a lot of middle-aged refugees as well, a lot of women. And one of the side effects of that has been that right now in Latvia and Riga, we have a chain of Ukrainian borscht restaurants. Right now, and a lot of Ukrainian refugees have gotten jobs there, and the profits of that enterprise actually go back to the armed forces of Ukraine.
Thank you so much for being with us today, and follow us, subscribe on YouTube, and see you soon.